Hi, I'm Julie Maviglia, and I am on the steering committee of Medfield Together.
And I am Lisa Chin, and I am also on the steering committee of Medfield Together.
Medfield Together is a social justice organization. We recognize that there are systems of inequality all over this country, and as difficult as it is to admit, they are also baked into Medfield as well. And we want to create an inclusive and an anti-oppressive community where everyone, regardless of your race, your religion, your gender identity, your sexual orientation, your socioeconomic status, your ability, your national origin, or your age, that you feel welcome and a valued member of this community. And so our formal mission is to educate, empower, and partner with our local community to identify and dismantle systems of inequity in Medfield.
And our organization is really about change and not just about learning. And as we were creating this organization with a number of other members, we were trying to distill what we would actually be doing. And we came up with a framework with 3 parts to it: listen, learn, and act. And listening is a really core component of our framework and something we're really mindful of, because most of our steering committee and our membership don't fully identify with a number of marginalized communities. And it's really important for us to understand the actual experiences of those who are marginalized. And so listening involves actually using your ears and finding those voices that are out there that are telling us what is going on. It's centering the right voices in the conversation. So making sure that we are finding those opportunities to listen to those people. And then after that, it's learning. So the 3 parts are listen, learn, and act. So it's learning from those people as well. And that includes those in our community. It also includes other organizations who have done this in the past. I mean, we are not by any means the first organization who's focused on social justice. There are so many who have come before us who have paved the way, and there's so many things that we can learn from them as well. So that's another place that we're learning. And then just learning from others who are putting themselves out there, who are part of marginalized communities, who may not be in Medfield, but within Massachusetts or even around the world, around the country, around the world. There are very similar experiences across those voices, and it's just learning from those people as well. So it's really looking at the whole spectrum and then exploring the various possibilities of how we could bring those ideas back into town and really make a difference, and into our 3rd pillar of our framework, which is act, and really taking action. Listening and acting are 2 very opposite, but at the same time very active elements. And you can't have one without the other. You can't have change without both of them. And really all 3 of the components that I've just kind of covered. Acting means taking action. It doesn't mean it has to be really big action. It means you're just doing something. You're doing something to try to further those voices that need furthering. It could be reading a book to your child. It could be contributing a book to one of our little inclusive libraries. It could be reading an article and sharing it with your family. It could be having conversations with your neighbor. It could be really, really small. And those are the little changes that really build a snowball. I mean, change starts with one person, and with our group, we really believe it starts with ourselves, and really, really trying to internalize this framework within how we are practicing social justice and awareness, and also parenting our kids. And then also another core component for us to remember ourselves and that we share with our members is that action doesn't need to be perfect. Action oftentimes will be imperfect because we don't know exactly what will work and what won't work. And one of my personal takeaways from this year, I learned that perfection is a core pillar of white supremacy. And once I realized that, I took it as almost my permission slip to take imperfect action. And that is something that we also want to make sure that, we know that we're going to make mistakes in this journey, and we are trying not to make as many by listening and learning, but ultimately by taking action, there's always a chance that, something may be misconstrued, may just be terribly wrong. And part of this journey is also taking imperfect action, and when we do so, we recognize it, and then we fix it, and we try again.
I like how our listen, learn, act framework is very cyclical. We listen, we learn, we act. And then once we've acted, we go back and we listen again, because we want to know, how did this action help or not? What can we do differently or better next time, right? It's this constant evolution, exactly like Lisa was saying.
Medfield Together was started by a group of parents who actually have had conversations starting about a couple years ago around curriculum in the schools and understanding how we're approaching certain topics. And we were just having conversations as concerned parents. And then we started speaking to the schools and just trying to learning what the approach in the schools were, and just trying to understand that, because most of us were parents of younger children. And then we also had been just having these conversations more casually between us as friends, and as we're trying to learn more about kind of understanding where we are on our social justice journeys, because everyone's kind of on this journey. And then in May, when George Floyd was murdered, we really, everyone was talking about social justice, about the trials and tribulations of the Black community and the injustices that they face day in and day out. And you couldn't ignore it at that point. And we realized we had been waiting to find a perfect time to formalize, and there was no other time more perfect than this moment, and if this moment was a year ago, it would have been this moment. If we were to wait for the perfect time, there would have never been a perfect time. We would never have learned everything that we need to know in order to take action. And so we thought, we need to really formalize. And formalizing meant that we would have a name, and we would have a website, and we would really start reaching out to the community and start forming a group of those of us in the community who wanted to make change and who wanted to grow their awareness and to make an impact on those who are marginalized in town, and also to show that and to bring a diverse lens to various happenings in town. So it moved from these casual conversations to just, we need to do something, and then we would really love to do something within not only the schools, but within the community. So within our group, we're focusing both on what we can do within the community, but then also we have a special focus on where in that, in the realm of education in Medfield Public Schools can we make change. And we can dive more into that at some point as well in this conversation, but we really are looking at both, approaching it from the community as well as the schools.
In Medfield Together, as Lisa was talking about before, we really, as we were talking at the very beginning of how we wanted to organize Medfield Together, we felt most drawn to these two branches, or these two arms of Medfield Together. And we recognized that in order to make effective change, you need to partner within the community and do a lot of community organization and education, but also in the schools. And what are the narratives we're giving to our children? And, reflecting back on, I think, many of our school, the myths that we were given at school, and how those still sort of permeate what we're teaching our kids today, and wanting to really look at some of those other critical lens. We wanted to partner with schools to find out how can we help in that process of looking at curricula with a critical lens. And so while we don't have a formal school initiative at this point, I know that our team is really working with the administrators, and they've been doing really listening to find out what are the roadblocks to any sort of changes, or what are the roadblocks to bringing in a new curriculum, or you know, how can we help you in this, or really just listening to see where educators see problems as well. There's also the Medfield Educators for Racial Justice, or MERGE group, and they've been amazing and wonderful. And so oftentimes we are meeting with them to talk about how to make equity a priority in the Medfield public school systems. And we want to make sure we're taking it slow, because it is complicated in the schools and it is hard. And so wanting to really listen and to hear and to create partnerships and lasting, trusting partnerships with the schools to be able to make changes that will positively impact our kids. And then within the community, we also recognize that we really need to have an awareness built up in our community. So one of the initiatives that we've done is these little inclusive libraries, which was inspired by Sarah Kamia's work in Arlington. She had started these diverse libraries, and it sort of has spread all over, and it's wonderful. So we have our own version of that in Medfield, and we've curated a book list of things for, I mean, all the way from board books for little kids to, you know, young adults fiction, and to adults, either fiction or also, you know, adult books on talking about race. And so we really wanted to span the breadth of this amazing, you know, reservoir of literature that we have available to us, and really focus on things that are the own voices, and wanting to make sure that we are not putting our own lens on this, but we are allowing a marginalized community to speak for themselves. And so we have one up at the FAF Center, and we have one planned for somewhere in central downtown. We're still figuring out the place. There's going to be one at the center on Ice House Road, and there's also going to be one at Medfield State Hospital. So if you get up there and you're walking around, you'll find our little library there. And you know, we encourage you to please take the book, to read it, to continue the conversations at home with your kids, with your family members, and then whenever you're done with it, to put it back in one of our little inclusive libraries. So then the conversation can continue. This is sort of an ongoing ripple effect that we're hoping to really create within all of our initiatives. And one of the best parts about our little inclusive library is our partnership with Park Street Books. You know, and a lot of our books are sourced from Park Street Books. Jim James has done a wonderful job of really getting the books that we've asked for our list in his store. So they are there. You know, he's been a really fantastic partner in this process.
This fall, we actually interviewed Francie Latour, one of the founders of We the People, which is a social justice group that really focuses on working with children and really tapping into their really core understanding of fairness and equality. And also they work and provide workshops for adults, parents, and educators on how to speak to children about racism and equality. And it was just a fantastic conversation, because this is a group that is local to Boston, and these are two women who can speak from their own experiences and have put themselves out there as educators in this area. And so that interview was done with Medfield TV as a partner, and we can link to that to that interview somewhere, I'm sure in the show notes or something. But it was also in conjunction with the workshops that We the People were putting on, that were these online workshops that they held over a weekend, where there were 2 workshops for children and then 2 workshops for adults and for parents and educators. And they were able to bring these experiences that they actually had entirely in person before into online. And we were all able to have the opportunity to join and learn from these women. And in addition to that, the funds that were raised through We the People, they were part of it was as contributions for reparations towards the Black community in Roxbury, I believe it was, for various wellness services to kind of help them with these times, because right now with the COVID-19 pandemic, the Black and Brown community is being impacted at a much higher rate than the other communities are. And the statistics are there, and it's really something that is heavily impacting their community. And so this was a great opportunity to not only learn from these women, but also be part of that contribution to the communities that really need that help right now. And we're hoping to really look at more opportunities to work with groups like We the People. So it was just a great way of just entering that realm of working with the local group. And then right now we have a group that just finished putting up this amazing light display at the Medfield State Hospital for the winter lights that the Cultural Alliance and Medfield TV are putting on. And we really wanted to bring an additional lens of diversity to the light display. And the group that has come together through our membership, they kind of came up with a theme that Medfield shines brighter together, and they are looking at highlighting 4 different holidays that have a focus on lights. So that's Kwanzaa, Diwali, Hanukkah, and the Chinese Lantern Festival. And they are bringing in different elements from those different celebrations, and they're going to be featuring that at the light show. And that, I'm really excited to see it, because I've been seeing like daytime pictures, but to be able to see that as part of kind of the greater conversation of celebrating in town, and that to me, that was an unexpected opportunity for us to be involved in. It really wasn't something that we would have ever thought of being involved in, but when the opportunity was kind of presented, we jumped at it, because we thought this is a really creative, inclusive, exciting way of bringing this conversation together. So those are kind of the 2 things that we've also done that are kind of outside of these broader initiatives that we've had.
So for the future, I think we are open to see where this goes. I think we want to find more opportunities to listen and to learn and to act. I think really at this point, what I'm seeing is more, I want to do a lot more listening and learning. And then from there, that's a stepping off point for the action. So it would be wonderful to have more interviews with BIPOC authors, or possibly some interviews with Indigenous educators. I know that there are people in town who've worked with Anawan Whedon, who's a Wampanoag educator. And I would love for us to be able to interview with him and to have his perspective and his narrative for the community, to have him there for them to hear. That would be wonderful. I know we want to do a lot of collaborating with the PTO and the MCPE, school site councils, and the school committee, really to talk about maybe bringing in a speaker series for students and for parents, and really wanting to make sure that equity remains a priority. And I think one of the best things about this being a community grassroots social justice organization is that if anyone in the community has ideas or really wants to see something go in a certain direction, or really wants to bring something to our attention, we are all ears. We want to hear from you. It's not about us on the steering committee, right? Our voices are not the ones that we want to amplify. We want to hear from our community. We want to hear from others and be able to really uplift marginalized members of our community.
We have a membership that's over 100 members large, so we're really excited about that part of our efforts, that we've been able to reach these folks in town who want to be involved in this type of change. So that is very exciting, and we know that we haven't kind of gone to every nook and cranny of the town to kind of pull in those other folks who are interested. So if you are interested, please, you can go to the website, you can learn a little bit more about us. There's a contact form on the website if you had any questions. There is also a section that if you're interested in becoming a member, so someone who is either interested in kind of keeping up to date on what we're doing, also being in our Facebook group, or just being involved in our initiatives, there's a form that you can fill out. So there's a link to it on that part of our website, and you can fill it out. And then you can kind of go through the process. It'll lead you through the chain, and so you'll automatically be included in our email list. And then if you want to be part of our Facebook group, there'll also be a link for that as well. And that between the email and the Facebook page, or group rather, those are where a lot of our communication happens. And then if you want to kind of stay up to date on what's happening, we have an Instagram account at Medfield Together, and we also have a newsletter through that we send periodically through that email list as well. So those are kind of the different ways that you can get in touch with us, and we're always welcome. Like Julie said, like if you have any ideas of what we can do in town, we're all ears.
Thank you so much for having us on. You know, this is great, a really great opportunity, and I'm excited for what this group is doing, and I'm really excited about Medfield. I think, you know, there are a lot of people who are interested in this work and interested in this journey, and we are all at different places on this journey. I think it's so important to know that, you know, those of us on the steering committee, we don't have the answers. You know, we see that things are wrong, and we just want to find ways to do no harm, and we want to find ways to make things better. And so, you know, it's really, I'm excited for this space and this time and this exploration. And as uncomfortable as it can be, it's good to do this work. It feels good to have that kind of growth.